0545 hours, ruins of the heavy machinery plant, Zaporizhzhia sector. A thick gray fog clings to the skeletal remains of the factory. Twisted steel beams jut from the concrete like broken ribs, piercing the gloom. The air is cold and smells of wet ash, rust, and ozone. Silence hangs heavy over the cratered earth, broken only by the rhythmic crunch of combat boots on gravel. US tactical ground units move like ghosts through the shadows. They carry heavy rectangular cases painted in urban gray, navigating the debris field with practiced precision. A squad leader raises a clenched fist. The column freezes instantly. He taps his wrist, signaling the timeline. The soldiers lower the cases onto the cracked pavement of the factory floor. Metal latches click open in unison. Hands move fast. Soldiers pull black cylindrical tubes from the protective foam lining. They lock the tubes into vertical racks hidden behind mounds of rubble. Thick data cables snake across the floor, connecting the launch tubes to a central control tablet. A technician kneels in the dust. He types a command sequence. Green status lights blink rapidly on the canisters. The low hum of capacitors charging begins to rise, sounding like a swarm of angry wasps waking up. The commander checks the northern horizon. He signals the perimeter teams. Camouflage nets up. The soldiers throw textured netting over the racks. They scatter dust, broken bricks, and rebar over the fabric. The advanced technology disappears into the ruins, indistinguishable from the surrounding trash. The radio crackles, the voice is distorted but clear. Birds inbound. ETA 2 minutes. The operator's fingers hover over the execution key. The drone canisters vibrate slightly. Inside each tube, carbon fiber rotor blades are folded tight, waiting for the signal to expand. The team retreats to a hardened bunker below the factory floor. They rotate the heavy iron wheel of the blast door. It seals with a metallic thud. Above ground, the wind picks up. It howls through the empty windows. The ground trembles faintly. The roar of jet engines begins as a low thrum in the distance, growing louder and deeper with every second. The trap is set. 0600 hours, airspace above the Zaporizhzhia steppe. The morning sun burns through the lingering mist, casting long, sharp shadows across the flat terrain. The sky is a pale, cold blue, stretching endlessly over the war-torn landscape. Below, the fields are scarred by miles of trench lines and artillery craters, looking like open wounds in the earth. The wind whips through the tall grass, flattening it in waves. For a brief moment, the world feels empty. The silence shatters. A deep rolling thunder erupts from the south. It is not weather. It is raw power. The noise grows rapidly, vibrating the ground and shaking dust from the ruined buildings. 6 fighter jets tear through the horizon line. They fly dangerously low, hugging the contours of the terrain to avoid long-range radar. Their engines scream with a high-pitched whine that deepens into a deafening roar as they pass overhead. The shockwaves flatten the grass and kick up clouds of dirt. The aircraft move in a tight, disciplined V formation. Their gray fuselages glint harshly in the sunlight. Dark exhaust trails streak the air behind them. Inside the cockpits, the pilots turn their heads, scanning the sectors below. Their helmet visors reflect the digital readouts of the terrain mapping systems. Gloved hands grip the flight sticks with tension. The lead aircraft banks hard to the left. The wings slice through the air, condensation forming vapor trails off the tips. The other 5 jets follow instantly, mirroring the movement with mechanical perfection. They are hunting. The formation drops altitude, screaming over the abandoned industrial zone. The jet wash slams into the tin roofs of the surrounding shacks, ripping loose sheets of metal off and hurling them into the dirt. Heat haze shimmers behind the exhaust nozzles, blurring the air. The flight leader toggles a switch on his throttle. The flaps on the wings adjust. He pushes the stick forward, diving closer to the factory complex. His targeting pod rotates beneath the fuselage, the glass eye searching for heat signatures. The sensor sweeps over the piles of rubble, the rusted beams, and the disguised mounds where the US team waits. The radar warning receivers in the jets remain silent. There is no lock-on tone, no missile launch warning. The pilots see only cold concrete and debris. They believe the sector is clear. The leader signals with a wing dip. The formation widens. They spread out to cover a broader attack vector, preparing to strike armor targets further north. Below the surface, in the buried bunker, a finger presses the execute key. The screen flashes red, the trap is sprung. The jets roar past the factory center, their engines exposing their exhaust ports to the ground directly behind them. They are fast, powerful, and completely blind to the swarm rising to meet them. 0602 hours, Ground Zero, industrial ruins. The camouflage netting ripples violently. The hidden canisters vibrate against their rusted racks. The signal travels through the fiber optic cables at the speed of light. The data packet hits the firing mechanism. The ground explodes. It is not a fire explosion, it is a pneumatic eruption. Compressed air charges detonate in unison with a deafening crack that snaps across the factory floor like a whip. The sound reverberates off the steel skeletons of the buildings. The debris mounds shatter. Bricks, dust, and twisted rebar are hurled into the air as the launch tubes blow their covers. The heavy fabric of the camouflage nets shreds apart, flailing in the sudden updraft. 150 black shapes shoot vertical. They blur the air. They rise from the rubble like a dark reverse rain. The silence of the ruins vanishes. A high-pitched mechanical scream fills the courtyard. It sounds like a million angry hornets. 600 carbon fiber rotors spin up to maximum RPM instantly. The noise is piercing. The downwash from the propellers kicks up a massive cloud of gray ash and grit, blinding the lower levels of the factory. The drones do not hover, they do not drift. They snap into formation with terrifying speed. These are not commercial quadcopters. They are jagged military-grade racing frames, stripped of all safety features, carrying high-explosive shaped charges strapped to their bellies. Wires hang exposed, cameras swivel forward. The swarm hangs in the air for a split second, a dense, buzzing black cloud against the pale sky. The chaotic mass organizes itself. Onboard AI processors link the machines into a single, cohesive mind. They share target data. They triangulate the position of the roaring jet engines rapidly receding to the north. The swarm tilts forward 45 degrees. The motors whine louder, pitching up to a shriek. They accelerate. They rocket away from the factory, moving from 0 to 100 miles per hour in seconds. They stay low, skimming the tops of the ruined walls, weaving through the steel beams. They move like a liquid, flowing over obstacles, hungry for the heat source ahead. The dark cloud tears across the open steppe, closing the distance on the unsuspecting aircraft. 0603 hours, airspace above the northern steppe. The wind streams over the open plains at 40 knots. The 6 fighter jets bank hard to the right, executing a wide tactical turn. Their wings slice through the thin cloud layer, leaving arcing white vapor trails against the blue sky. Sunlight flashes off the canopies as the aircraft roll out of the turn. The roar of the afterburners lags behind them, thundering over the empty fields. The drone swarm reacts instantly. They do not chase the tailpipes. That is a losing race. The onboard processors calculate the geometry of the aircraft's turn. The swarm pivots as one solid unit. They pull up. The black cloud shoots vertical. Motors scream at redline. The drones tear through the lower atmosphere, climbing against gravity. They cut the corner of the turn. They aim for the empty pocket of air where the jets will be in 10 seconds. The formation splits. 150 machines divide into 3 distinct attack waves. They spread out, creating a lethal net across the flight path. The distance closes rapidly. The optical sensors on the lead drones lock onto the gray silhouettes of the approaching aircraft. Green digital boxes draw tight around the intakes and cockpit glass. The target data shares across the mesh network instantly. The pilots look forward. The sky appears clear. Their radar screens show nothing. The plastic and carbon fiber frames of the drones are invisible to the sensors. But the swarm is now directly ahead, hanging suspended in the flight path like a floating minefield. The drones level out. They angle their noses down. They accelerate head-on toward the jets. The closing speed is now over 600 miles per hour. 0604 hours, the intercept point. The lead pilot narrows his eyes. Small black specks appear on the horizon, motionless against the clouds. They look like dirt on the canopy glass. He reaches up to wipe the visor. The specks do not disappear. They grow larger. They multiply. "Brake!" he screams into the mask. It is too late. The lead fighter jet slams into the wall of drones at 500 knots. The impact is not a single bang. It is a rapid-fire series of heavy, wet thuds. The carbon fiber bodies of the drones smash against the nose cone and canopy, disintegrating into clouds of black plastic and wire. The massive air intakes on the sides of the fuselage act like vacuums. They inhale. 3 FPV drones are sucked violently into the right engine. 2 more vanish into the left. Inside the turbines, the titanium compressor blades are spinning at 20,000 revolutions per minute. They meet the hardened steel motors and heavy lithium polymer battery packs of the drones. The result is catastrophic. The delicate fan blades shatter instantly. They snap off like brittle glass. Shrapnel from the broken blades flies backward, tearing through the engine core. The engines scream, a tortured, grinding metal screech that drowns out the wind. A massive fireball vomits from the rear exhaust of the right engine. Thick, oily smoke pours out, trailing the jet. The engine seizes. The abrupt loss of thrust on one side acts like a brake. The jet violently yaws to the right, the nose jerking sideways. The airframe shudders uncontrollably, shaking the pilot in his harness. Warning lights flood the cockpit with red flashes. The flight computer fails to compensate. The jet rolls inverted, bleeding speed and altitude, falling toward the grass like a stone. 06:05 hours, high-altitude combat airspace. The burning wreckage of the lead jet tumbles toward the earth, leaving a twisted ribbon of black smoke in the sky. The formation fractures instantly. The remaining 5 pilots yank their flight sticks back. The disciplined V-shape shatters into chaos. Engines roar at full throttle as the aircraft scatter in 5 different directions, desperate for separation. "Flares! Flares!" a voice screams over the radio. The countermeasure ports on the jet bellies pop open. Dozens of magnesium decoys shoot out into the slipstream. They ignite instantly, burning with a blinding white-hot intensity. They trail smoke and fire, creating a confusing web of heat signatures designed to confuse infrared missiles. The sky lights up with false suns. The drone swarm ignores them completely. These machines do not track heat, they track pixels. The optical sensors filter out the bright flashes of the magnesium. The onboard AI sees only the dark gray contrast of the aircraft wings against the blue sky. The flares fall uselessly toward the ground. The swarm pivots in mid-air. The black cloud ripples like a muscle flexing. It divides again, splitting into smaller hunter-killer groups. The drones bank hard, their rotors fighting the wind shear. They reacquire the targets. They lock onto the physical shapes of the fleeing jets. The pilots check their rearview mirrors. The panic sets in. The white flares drift away, empty. But the black specks are still there. They are closer. They are faster than the jets can accelerate from the turn. The swarm cuts across the radius of the turn, closing the gap with terrifying geometry. The buzzing sound returns, audible even over the jet engines as the drones dive for the kill. 06:06 hours, flanking sector west. The 2 leftmost fighters roll 90 degrees. The pilots pull back hard on the sticks, pulling 7 Gs. The wings flex under the massive strain. White vapor ribbons stream off the leading edges. They attempt a high-speed scissor maneuver to shake the pursuers. It is futile. The drone pods close the distance. They do not aim for the armored fuselage. They aim for the thin, fragile control surfaces. The first group of 10 drones hammers into the port wing of the second jet. They strike the ailerons in a tight cluster. The warheads detonate on contact. Flash crack. The aluminum skin peels back like wet cardboard. The internal spars shatter. The explosion severs the hydraulic lines. High-pressure red fluid sprays into the slipstream, atomizing instantly. The entire wingtip snaps off, spinning away into the clouds. The lift vanishes on one side. The jet lurches violently to the left, entering an uncontrollable flat spin. Simultaneously, the third jet attempts to dive. The second drone cluster intercepts the vertical stabilizer. They smash into the tailfin. The combined explosion rips the rudder completely off the airframe. The jet loses all yaw control. The nose swings wildly from side to side. The aircraft begins to skid through the air, broadside to the wind. The aerodynamic forces hammer the fuselage. Metal rivets pop like gunfire. The pilot fights the stick, slamming it against the stops. The jet does not respond. It tumbles, smoke trailing from the shattered tail, drifting helplessly toward the hard earth below. 06:08 hours, mid-air center sector. Smoke trails crisscross the sky like black scars. The fourth jet is isolated. Debris from the wingmen falls past the canopy. The pilot jams the throttle forward to the stop. The engine kicks hard. Blue flame erupts from the exhaust. The jet surges, trying to outrun the swarm. One drone separates from the pack high above. It does not bank. It drops straight down like a guillotine blade. It aligns perfectly with the bubble canopy. The pilot looks up. He sees the spinning rotors. He yanks the stick right. The jet begins to roll. It is too slow. The drone strikes the polycarbonate glass at 400 miles per hour. The impact sound is a dull, sickening thwack. The reinforced glass spiders instantly. It holds for a microsecond, then caves in. The canopy implodes. Thousands of razor-sharp shards shower the cockpit. The drone punches through the breach, landing directly in the pilot's lap. The warhead detonates. The explosion is contained within the tiny space. The cockpit fills with fire and black smoke. The pressure blows the remaining glass outward. Blood sprays across the digital instrument panel. The pilot's helmet cracks open. His body slumps forward, dead weight falling onto the flight controls. His hands slip off the stick. The jet noses over, it enters a steep vertical dive. The engine whines, spinning down. The aircraft plunges straight down, slicing through the smoke of the previous kills. A coffin of steel and fire plummeting toward the fields. 0610 hours. Vertical airspace, altitude 15,000 feet. The air is thin and freezing. The sun hangs directly overhead, a blinding white disk in the dark blue zenith. The fifth fighter jet is a silver needle piercing the sky. The pilot pulls the stick back into his lap. The nose points 90 degrees straight up. The afterburner kicks in with a concussive thud. A 20-foot tongue of blue flame erupts from the tail. The aircraft fights gravity, trading speed for altitude, gambling that the electric drones cannot function in the thin oxygen. The swarm is slower now, but they are relentless. They do not try to outclimb the jet. They converge on the only heat source in the freezing sky. The exhaust plume acts like a magnet. 30 drones dive into the turbulent wake of the jet. The heat from the afterburner is 2,000 degrees. The lead drones vaporize instantly. Their plastic frames melt into black sludge. Their batteries explode, but they do not stop coming. The sheer volume of debris creates a physical blockage. A molten slurry of fused metal, burning plastic, and lithium slag slams into the variable exhaust nozzle. The pedals of the nozzle jam. The airflow chokes. The reaction is immediate and violent. The jet engine suffers a catastrophic compressor stall. A massive back-pressure wave hammer blows the turbine. Bang! 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 The sound is like a cannon firing inside the fuselage. Flames vomit forward out of the air intakes, licking the cockpit glass. The engine shudders and dies. The roar of the afterburner cuts out instantly, replaced by the hollow whistling of wind. The jet hangs suspended in the air. 0 airspeed. The control surfaces go dead. The heavy metal beast becomes a brick. Gravity takes hold. The aircraft slides backward, tail first. It flips over on its back, entering a chaotic, unrecoverable tumble toward the clouds below. 0612 hours, deck level, southern perimeter. The last fighter jet is a gray blur against the brown earth. The pilot is alone. The radio is dead static. He shoves the throttle past the detent. The afterburners ignite with a raw, guttural roar. 2 cones of blue fire stab the air behind the fuselage. The aircraft accelerates violently. The G-force slams the pilot back into the ejection seat. The digital speedometer climbs rapidly. Mach 0.9. Mach 1.0. A white vapor cone forms around the wings, then snaps back as the jet breaks the sound barrier. The sonic boom cracks across the empty fields like a thunderclap. The landscape blurs into streaks of green and brown. He is flying at 50 feet, hugging the terrain, trusting speed to save him. The swarm does not chase, it anticipates. The main body of the drone cloud is high above, but a reserve unit of 40 drones was already positioned 5 miles south, loitering in the flight path. They drop from the sky. They do not aim for the jet. They aim for the air in front of it. The drones spread out in a wide horizontal line, hovering 10 feet apart. They form a floating tripwire across the valley floor. The pilot sees the black dots materialize in the distance. He banks hard right, wings vertical, pulling 9 Gs to skirt the wall. The blood drains from his head. His vision tunnels. The G-suit squeezes his legs painfully. The drone line shifts instantly. They slide right, mirroring his movement. They block the escape corridor. The pilot reverses, rolling hard left, snapping the aircraft back. The wings flex dangerously. The drones match him again. They are lighter, slower, but infinitely more agile. So, they box him in. The jet screams toward the blockade at 700 miles per hour. There is no room to turn. There is no time to climb. The pilot stares through the HUD. The wall of black plastic and explosives rushes toward the nose cone. He is trapped in a tunnel of his own speed. 0613 hours, low altitude intercept point. The distance closes to 0. The fighter jet hits the drone wall at Mach 1.2. The physics of the collision are instantaneous and brutal. It is not an aerodynamic failure, it is a kinetic obliteration. 20 solid-body drones strike the nose cone simultaneously. The impact force is equivalent to hitting a concrete wall at 800 miles per hour. The composite radar dome at the front of the jet disintegrates into powder. The aluminum bulkhead behind it crumples. The drones punch through the skin, their warheads detonating inside the fuselage avionics bay. Boom crack. The nose of the jet is sheared off completely. The aerodynamic profile is destroyed. The airframe, traveling at supersonic speed, suddenly loses its leading edge. The wind resistance hits the jagged metal stump like a sledgehammer. The fuselage buckles. The metal skin ripples, tears, and shreds backward. The wings snap off at the roots, unable to withstand the sudden deceleration shock. Fuel tanks inside the wings rupture. Thousands of gallons of aviation fuel atomize into a white mist. Sparks from the shearing metal ignite the vapor. A massive rolling fireball engulfs the disintegrating aircraft. It expands outward, consuming the debris field. The tail section spins away, engulfed in flames, tumbling end over end across the sky. Inside the crumbling cockpit, the pilot reacts on pure instinct. His hand slams between his legs. He grips the yellow and black handle. He yanks upward. Bang! Explosive bolts blow the canopy clear. Solid rocket motors under the ejection seat ignite with a deafening roar. The pilot is punched upward, accelerating at 14 Gs. He shoots out of the fireball, a tiny speck escaping the inferno. The seat stabilizes. The drogue chute pops out, snapping tight in the wind, slowing his fall. Below him, the remains of the fighter jet impact the ground. The explosion shakes the earth. A mushroom cloud of black smoke and orange fire rises, marking the grave of the final aircraft. 0630 hours, post-engagement zone. The roar of engines is gone. The wind returns, whistling through the tall grass. It carries the heavy, acrid stench of burning jet fuel and melting composite. Across the horizon, 6 thick pillars of black smoke climb vertically into the morning sky. They stand like dark monuments over the flat plains. Small secondary explosions pop from the crash sites. Pop, crack. Unspent 20mm cannon rounds cook off in the intense heat of the wreckage. At the factory ruins, the heavy blast door creaks open. The steel wheel spins. US tactical teams step out into the light. They move low, weapons raised, sweeping the perimeter. They check the sky. It is empty. The blue dome is clear. The squad leader walks to the edge of the rubble mound. He raises his thermal binoculars. He scans the northern field. He sees the twisted, blackened skeleton of a fuselage burning in a crater. He pans right, another fire, he pans left. A wing section sticks out of the mud like a tombstone. He lowers the glass. He keys the mic on his chest rig. "Command, this is Viper 1, Splash 6, confirmed kills, area secure." The technicians move fast. They collapse the empty launch tubes. They throw the equipment back into the gray cases. They cover their tracks, sweeping the dust smooth. They vanish back into the shadows of the industrial skeleton. The sun rises higher. The smoke columns drift slowly to the east. The battlefield is silent again.